I think this new General Hospital promo for the week of May 25th to 29th feels much darker and more desperate than the show has been in a while. Almost every scene in the preview has this sense that people are losing control of situations they thought they could manage. And honestly, that tension is what made the trailer work for me. The promo opens by revisiting the moment when General Hospital's Curtis Ashford punched Isaiah Gannon at the Metro Court. I didn't realize at first how serious the fallout from that fight could become, but the preview immediately frames it as something much bigger than a personal confrontation. When Trina Robinson asks her father, "How much trouble are you in?" it feels less like concern and more like fear that everything is about to collapse around him. Then the voiceover from Portia Robinson saying, "His entire career could be over," raises the stakes even higher. To me, the most important part of that sequence is the shot of Isaiah at the hospital afterward. If the altercation affects his ability to perform surgeries, Curtis may have caused damage far beyond one impulsive moment. I may be wrong, but this feels like the kind of storyline that could permanently alter multiple relationships in Port Charles, especially with Curtis already carrying so much pressure professionally and personally. Then the promo pivots toward the Drew storyline, and honestly, this was the biggest surprise. After weeks of manipulation and secrecy, Willow Kane suddenly tells Jen Sidwell, "We have to stop doozing Drew." That line alone changes the entire energy of the story, because up until now, Willow seemed fully committed to whatever plan was unfolding around Drew Kane. I was wondering if seeing the condition of Jack Brennan finally shook her. Brennan being trapped in that same manipulated state may have forced Willow to see the reality of what they're actually doing. Another possibility is that she's starting to panic about exposure. Public perception matters, especially with Drew being a congressman, and once political scandal enters a soap storyline, things usually spiral fast. What stood out to me was Sidwell's reaction. He doesn't look worried at all, just annoyed. That exhausted sigh almost makes it seem like Willow's conscience is becoming inconvenient to him. And in soap operas, the moment someone starts developing guilt is usually the moment they become dangerous to the people they're working with. The promo then shifts into full suspense mode with Lulu Spencer and Dante Falconry desperately trying to find Rocco Falconry before Ross Cullum gets to him first. That entire sequence feels frantic. The quick shot of Rocco on the phone gives the impression that he's trying to reassure his parents that he's okay. But in soap trailers, those moments rarely end peacefully. Usually if someone says they're safe, danger is already seconds away. And then comes the final mystery. The preview ends with a shot of Britt Westbourne while Sidwell orders someone over the phone, "Find her and bring her back home now." I think the show intentionally wants viewers guessing about who her actually is. Britt is the obvious answer because of the editing, but soap promos love misdirection. It could just as easily refer to Willow if Sidwell believes she's becoming unstable or disloyal. There's even a chance it's someone completely unexpected tied to whatever larger operation is happening behind the scenes. Overall, this promo feels like General Hospital is setting up one of those weeks where multiple storylines explode at once. Curtis may be facing professional ruin. Willow could be turning against the very scheme she helped create, and the hunt for Rocco already feels like it's heading somewhere dangerous. To me, the biggest question isn't whether chaos is coming. It's who survives the fallout once all these secrets finally collide. I think this new General Hospital preview for the week of May 25th to 29th is setting up one of those classic GH situations where multiple storylines collide at the worst possible moment, and nearly everyone involved is about to pay a price. The promo immediately throws us into chaos with Curtis Ashford attacking Isaiah Gannons, and honestly, the fallout looks much bigger than just one violent outburst. Trina Robinson asking Curtis how much trouble he could be in says everything. To me, that scene already feels less like a family argument and more like the beginning of a legal disaster. What really makes it worse is Portia Robinson warning that Isaiah's entire surgical career could be over. That shattered hand changes everything. Isaiah wasn't just hurt. His identity, his purpose, and his future may have been destroyed in a matter of seconds. I was wondering if GH is setting him up for a long emotional spiral because losing the ability to operate could completely redefine the character moving forward. Curtis may not have intended to ruin Isaiah's life, but intent probably won't matter if criminal charges follow. And if Isaiah's career truly ends here, Curtis could become the man responsible for taking away a doctor's livelihood forever. That's the kind of guilt GH characters rarely escape from easily. Meanwhile, the Drew Kane storyline keeps getting darker. Willow Kane, once again trying to stop the paralytic injections, tells me she's reaching her breaking point. She clearly knows this has gone too far, but John Sidwell doesn't seem interested in backing down. His reaction in the promo almost feels cold and calculated, like Drew's suffering is simply part of a larger plan. And honestly, Sidwell has become one of the most dangerous players on the canvas because he operates with total emotional detachment. He doesn't panic, he doesn't hesitate, he just gives orders. The biggest danger this week, though, appears to revolve around Rocco Falconry and Britt Westbourne. When Lulu Spencer tells Dante Falconry they have to find their son before Ross Cullum does, the urgency instantly spikes. I think the show is making it clear that Rocco is no longer just caught in adult drama. He's now directly inside a deadly situation. Cullum already believes Rocco shot him, and once he realizes Rocco disappeared with Britt, that suspicion will probably harden into certainty. That's what makes this so dangerous. Rocco isn't merely hiding anymore, he's being hunted. The brief shot of Rocco during what looks like a tense video call also raises huge questions. My first thought was Charlotte Cassadine too. It would make sense if Rocco reached out to someone he trusts while trying to stay hidden. But if Charlotte gets pulled into this mess, that could expand the danger even further. Then the promo closes with Sidwell ordering someone to find her and bring her back now. And that line alone makes Britt's situation feel terrifying. Because let's be honest, this probably isn't about rescuing Britt, it's about controlling her. Sidwell clearly still needs her for the prototype, but once she serves her purpose, I don't think her future looks very promising. Maybe I'm wrong, but the promo gives off the feeling that Britt has become more valuable as a tool than as a person. And in soap operas, that usually means betrayal is coming. Cassius Renault, also known as Nathan West, may be stuck in the middle of the entire crisis. He seems torn between protecting Britt and Rocco or obeying the dangerous people demanding results. That kind of divided loyalty usually ends badly on GH. To me, the most interesting part of this preview is how every storyline centers around consequences. Curtis may lose everything because of one violent moment. Isaiah may lose the career that defined him. Willow may finally realize she's trapped in something monstrous. And Rocco may be discovering that one terrible decision can place an enormous target on his back. The week ahead feels less like setup and more like the beginning of a full collapse for several major characters at once. On General Hospital, I keep thinking it's kind of wild that Trina has somehow become the least dramatic person in her entire family. Out of everyone connected to Curtis and Portia, she's the one acting the most grounded. And that says a lot considering she's secretly sitting on major information herself. Because technically, Trina and Kai know far more than they're admitting. They were literally hiding out in his bedroom around the exact time Willow shot Drew. That alone sounds like the setup for a full-blown soap explosion later. Yet compared to the chaos happening around her, Trina still somehow comes across as the calm one. And honestly, her family is a mess right now. Portia is pregnant with her ex's baby, which is already enough emotional confusion for an entire season of television. Meanwhile, Curtis let his anger completely take over and punched Isaiah. What should have been one reckless moment may now permanently alter Isaiah's future because his injured hand could keep him from operating again. In Port Charles, where doctors are constantly needed, that's not just personal drama. It has huge ripple effects. I think what makes Trina stand out is that she's been trying to focus on normal things. Her upcoming showcase, arranged by Brooklyn, gave her something positive to work toward while everyone else spiraled. But now the family disaster is pulling her back in. The Wednesday episode really seems to position Trina as the emotional mediator when she starts questioning Curtis about how serious his situation has become. To me, that's the ironic part. The youngest adult in this storyline may be the only one trying to keep everyone from completely self-destructing. At the same time, Kai delivering bad news could push Trina into an even bigger mystery. If Jax's medical condition mirrors what happened to Drew, then alarm bells should absolutely be going off. It feels like the story is steering Trina and Kai toward finally connecting the dots about what's really happening in that house. And if they do, their own secrets may become impossible to hide much longer. Elsewhere in Port Charles, Rick and Elizabeth continue moving closer together, although their timing couldn't be worse. Elizabeth has been through another bizarre ordeal after Britt physically restrained her and locked her in a closet before escaping. That's peak soap opera insanity, but it also leaves Elizabeth emotionally shaken in a way that could deepen her bond with Rick. I was wondering if Rick may also start piecing together just how dangerous Britt has become. Once Sonny gets pulled into that conversation, things could escalate fast. Sonny rarely stays patient when the people around him are threatened, especially when chaos starts affecting his family circle. Then there's the Rocco situation, which honestly feels ready to explode emotionally. Gio thought he was doing the right thing by telling Dante about their conversation, but from Rocco's perspective it was betrayal. Now Rocco is gone, running with Britt, and everyone left behind is panicking. That's why the Emma and Gio scene stands out to me. Not long ago, Gio was the one comforting Emma during the fallout involving Anna. Now the roles are reversed. Gio is carrying guilt, fear, and probably regret over how quickly everything spiraled after he tried to help. And somehow, in the middle of all this dysfunction, Trina may still be the one person trying to hold multiple families together while quietly hiding secrets of her own. That usually never ends well on General Hospital. I think Jason Morgan's return on General Hospital could end up feeling a lot different this time around. After everything that's happened, the WSB mess, the Jakarta black site, Sam's death, and Danny spiraling without stability, it honestly feels like the show is setting Jason up for a major reset instead of just another cycle of danger and disappearances. With Steve Burton heading back to filming in June, it's hard not to wonder what kind of version of Jason we're about to see when he finally comes home to Port Charles. The biggest thing, at least to me, is that Jason desperately needs to focus on being a father again. Danny Morgan has already lost Sam McCall in one of the darkest ways possible after Cyrus Renault destroyed their family, and now Jason's absence has only made things worse. You can really see how much Danny has been struggling emotionally. Alexis Davis has tried to keep things together, but Danny doesn't just need rules or supervision right now, he needs his father. I feel like the show has a real opportunity here to explore a different side of Jason. Not just the protector or enforcer everyone depends on, but an actual parent trying to reconnect with his son. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think viewers would respond more to scenes of Jason helping Danny through grief than watching him survive another warehouse shootout. That also ties directly into the second thing that needs to change: Jason's constant danger-filled lifestyle. For years, Jason has basically lived in survival mode. Arrests, mob wars, fake deaths, kidnappings, secret missions, the chaos never stops. At some point, though, it starts to feel repetitive instead of exciting. If the writers truly want growth for Jason, I think they need to let him slow down for once. Not permanently, because this is still General Hospital, but enough for him to actually exist outside of crisis after crisis. Danny deserves a father who's present, not someone who disappears every few months because another enemy shows up. And honestly, Jason himself deserves some peace, too. I didn't realize how exhausted the character's life had become until this latest WSB storyline pushed him completely off the canvas again. Then there's the romantic side of Jason's future, which might be the most unpredictable part. I still think Jason needs a genuine love story again, not just chemistry, not just longing stares, but an actual emotional relationship that matters. Fans seem split over whether Britt Westbourne should be part of that future, and I can understand both sides. Jason and Britt had a connection that felt surprisingly natural, especially because Britt brought out a softer and more human version of him. But at the same time, the show may decide to move Jason towards someone entirely new. Either way, I think romance only works for Jason now if the writers allow him to emotionally evolve. A relationship can't survive if he's constantly running off to fight enemies like Ross Cullum or Jen Sidwell every other week. There has to be balance. To me, this upcoming return feels like an important crossroads for the character. Jason can either fall back into the same endless cycle he's been trapped in for decades, or General Hospital can finally let him grow into something more grounded. A father, a partner, and maybe even someone capable of building a real life outside of danger. And honestly, that version of Jason might be more interesting than the invincible action hero we've already seen for years. After a classic Memorial Day episode of General Hospital aired, the drama picks right back up on Tuesday, May 26th. And to me, the biggest question is whether Christina's big news is actually the beginning of her exit story. Right now, Christina's life has been strangely calm by Port Charles standards. Charlie's pub is back up and running, and for once she and Molly seem to be in a genuinely good place. Christina even accompanied her sister to a doctor's appointment, which felt like the show deliberately reminding us how close they've become again. That's why I can't help thinking the timing of this life-changing news matters. With Kate Mansi confirmed to be leaving the role after 3 years, it feels possible the writers are setting the stage for Christina to leave town either voluntarily or because the weight of her secrets finally catches up to her. I may be wrong, but soap operas rarely hand characters peaceful stretches unless something major is about to explode. Meanwhile, the Lulu, Dante, and Rocco storyline has become even messier than I expected. Lulu had fake passports ready and seemed prepared to flee with Rocco, while Dante understandably refused to let his son become a fugitive. Ironically, all of their fighting pushed Rocco into doing exactly what everyone feared most: disappearing on his own. Well, technically not alone. He left with Britt. That twist made things dramatically worse for both parents because now Rocco has no phone, a fake passport, and a serious head start. To me, the interesting part isn't even the escape itself. It's that Lulu and Dante are finally being forced to work together again. The spoilers saying they come to an agreement feels less like a romantic reconciliation and more like two exhausted parents realizing they can't afford to stay divided anymore. Elsewhere, Carly's instincts about Jocelyn are spiraling into full panic mode. Carly Spencer has always operated on emotion first and evidence second, so it makes sense that she feels something is deeply wrong even before she has proof. Valentin blaming Jack Brennan for Joss's disappearance only complicates things further. But the real danger, in my opinion, is that Joss now knows Nathan is actually Cassius. That kind of information never stays safe for long in a spy storyline. And Cullum still doesn't know she's connected to the WSB. If he finds out, the situation could become deadly very quickly. I also found the Carly and Lucas scene preview interesting because it may not just be about Joss. Carly often turns to Lucas when she's emotionally cornered, and Bobby's has become one of the few places where the show slows down long enough to let characters actually feel their fear instead of just reacting to it. Then there's Sidwell and Ava, which honestly has become one of the more unexpectedly compelling alliances on the canvas. Sidwell seems drawn to Ava because she understands dangerous people and dangerous environments better than most. There's a level of realism in how they interact that makes their scenes work for me. What fascinates me most is the Marco murder mystery slowly circling closer to Windermere. Sidwell still believes Sonny may be responsible, but if he starts connecting the dots properly, he could end up dangerously close to the truth. And the irony is that people already in his orbit likely know far more than they're admitting. Finally, Chase and Detective Fitzpatrick teaming up on a new lead feels like classic soap opera setup where unrelated storylines eventually collide. I was immediately reminded of the Curtis and Jordan accident, especially because the show quietly emphasized damaged vehicles recently. Not just Isaiah's car but Brooklyn's as well. That detail feels intentional. Chase may not know anything about Brooklyn's repaired car yet, but Tracy certainly does. And whenever Tracy knows something important on this show, it usually means the truth is only a matter of time away from surfacing. I think General Hospital may be setting Pascal up for a very dangerous endgame, and the more I look at all the moving pieces, the harder it is to imagine him making it out alive. Right now, Sonny Corinthos finally has something he can use against Jen Sidwell, and it all traces back to the fallout from Hank Dalton's death. Britt Westbourne handing Sonny that information before leaving town feels incredibly important in hindsight, because it suddenly gave Sonny leverage he didn't have before. Pascal helped cover up Dalton's murder after Sidwell killed him, and now that secret is becoming a ticking time bomb. On the May 26th episode, Sonny made it clear to Laura Collins that the entire strategy depends on getting Pascal to flip on Sidwell. To me, that was the moment the story really shifted. Pascal is no longer just a nervous accomplice hiding in the background. He's becoming the key witness who could destroy Sidwell completely. The problem is that Pascal is trapped from every direction. He already made one catastrophic mistake by telling Ross Cullum about Britt's stolen medication. That chain reaction ultimately contributed to Marco Reyes getting killed, whether Pascal intended that outcome or not. Now he's carrying another secret that could get him executed if Sidwell ever learns the truth. I was wondering if this is exactly why Pascal may decide Sonny is his only possible lifeline. Even if Pascal doesn't trust Sonny, he may realize Sidwell is guaranteed death, while Sonny at least offers a chance at survival. That could push Pascal toward making some kind of immunity deal or confession arrangement. I can easily picture him exposing everything about Dalton's murder: the trunk, the cover-up, the blackmail, possibly through a recorded confession or signed statement meant for the PCPD. There's also something very mob drama about the idea of Sonny promising Pascal a new identity, money, and escape to some tropical hiding place in exchange for testimony. The show loves those kinds of desperate last-minute bargains, where everybody knows betrayal is still possible. And honestly, that's the biggest reason I think Pascal is doomed. If Sidwell figures out Pascal is cooperating with Sonny, there's no way he lets that betrayal stand. Sidwell already comes across as someone who eliminates liabilities without hesitation, and Pascal knows far too much. Add Marco's death into the equation, and Pascal basically becomes a walking threat to Sidwell's entire operation. But I also can't completely rule out Sonny being the real danger here. Sonny may act like he's protecting Pascal, but once Pascal serves his purpose, would Sonny really risk leaving behind someone who knows this much? Maybe I'm wrong, but the show seems to be positioning Pascal as expendable to everyone involved. Sidwell could kill him for betrayal, or Sonny could decide tying up loose ends is the safer option. Either way, Pascal feels less like a survivor, and more like a character heading toward a tragic final chapter. To me, the tension now isn't really about whether Pascal flips, it's about whether flipping actually changes his fate at all. Kate Mancy's departure from General Hospital has sparked a much bigger reaction than many viewers expected. The announcement immediately sent fans into speculation mode, and now Mancy herself seems to be adding even more fuel to the conversation. What caught my attention was how carefully she teased everything on social media. After reposting the exit article to her Instagram story, she followed it with a quiet nighttime shot overlooking London, the moon hanging in the background. The caption, "Good night London moon. More to discuss tomorrow," felt deliberate, almost like she knew fans would immediately start connecting dots. Then the next morning, she doubled down with another Instagram story. This time she appeared relaxed, smiling behind sunglasses while riding in a car, teasing that she had some exciting news to share soon. To me, that doesn't sound like someone stepping away from acting altogether. It sounds more like someone preparing for a major career pivot. From everything that's been reported, Mancy wasn't pushed out of General Hospital. Apparently, the decision was hers, and I think the travel situation probably played a major role. Her husband, Matt McGinnis, is currently overseas producing a television project. Long-distance schedules can become brutal when you're tied to daytime television's demanding filming pace. At the same time, Mancy also mentioned wanting room for other opportunities. That's the part I keep circling back to because actors rarely phrase things that way unless something is already developing behind the scenes. And honestly, soap fans immediately jump to one obvious possibility: a return to Days of Our Lives. I may be wrong, but the timing feels interesting. Before becoming Christina, Mancy had already built a huge daytime legacy playing Abigail Devereaux Dimira on Days of Our Lives. She first joined the soap in 2011 and quickly became one of the show's breakout younger stars. Even after exiting in 2016, she eventually returned from 2018 to 2020, proving how connected both the audience and the show remained to her version of Abigail. What makes this even more notable is that Mancy wasn't just popular, she was critically successful too, winning 2 Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actress during her run. That history is why fans are already wondering whether Salem could be calling her back once again. Of course, there's one major complication. Abigail was killed off, but soap operas have never exactly treated death as permanent. To me, daytime television almost operates on comic book logic at this point. Characters disappear, return with new faces, survive impossible situations, or come back through elaborate twists all the time. So while there's no confirmation whatsoever that Mancy is headed back to Salem, I can understand why viewers instantly went there. What we do know is that her time at General Hospital is already finished behind the scenes. She reportedly wrapped filming back in April, which means Christina's final Port Charles episodes are likely arriving very soon. And honestly, that may end up being the strangest part of all this. It feels like fans are already talking less about her exit and more about whatever comes next. I was a little surprised to see how quiet Nancy Lee Grahn has been ever since the news broke about Kate Mancy leaving General Hospital. Normally, Nancy always has something to say, whether it's about current events, behind-the-scenes moments, or defending the people she cares about. That's part of what makes her such a strong presence both on and off screen. So this silence feels noticeable. For longtime GH viewers, the situation feels even bigger because Kate wasn't just playing any random character. She stepped into the role of Christina Corinthos Davis, one of Alexis Davis's daughters and a member of one of Port Charles's most established families. Christina has always been deeply connected to the emotional core of the show, especially through Alexis, Sunny, and Molly. Because of that, it's hard to imagine the character simply disappearing for good. I think that's why fans immediately started reading into Nancy's lack of reaction. Usually when a cast member exits, especially someone she shared major storylines with, Nancy tends to acknowledge it publicly in some way. This time, though, there's been nothing. Maybe she's respecting Kate's privacy, maybe there are still moving pieces behind the scenes, or maybe the situation is more complicated than viewers realize. Soap opera exits are rarely as straightforward as they first appear. Meanwhile, Frank Valentini did address the departure publicly, saying the show supports Kate's decision and that the door remains open for her return. To me, that statement sounded intentionally careful, not necessarily like a permanent goodbye but not exactly temporary either. In the soap world, doors are almost never fully closed. What makes this even more interesting is the immediate speculation surrounding Lexi Ainsworth. A lot of viewers still strongly associate her with Christina since she played the role for years before Kate Mancy took over in 2023. If Kate really is leaving long-term, bringing Lexi back would honestly make a lot of sense creatively. Legacy soap characters usually get recast rather than written out completely, especially when they're tied to central families. At the same time, I can also understand why some fans may feel conflicted. Kate Mancy brought a very different energy to Christina, especially during some of the character's more emotionally intense recent storylines. Whether viewers loved the portrayal or not, she definitely left a strong impression on the role. Right now, though, the silence may be the biggest clue of all. Neither Kate nor Nancy has commented publicly beyond the official statement from production. And in daytime television, that usually keeps speculation alive even longer. Sometimes no comment says more than a full interview ever could. For now, fans of General Hospital are left waiting to see whether this is truly the end of Kate Mancy's run or just another temporary shakeup in the constantly changing world of Port Charles. I think General Hospital may be heading toward one of those casting decisions that completely reshapes the canvas of the show. The more I look at everything happening behind the scenes, the more it feels like Sasha Gilmore Corbin could be the character most likely to get a major recast next. A lot of fans have noticed how absent Sasha has been lately. And honestly, I've been wondering if that absence is becoming more permanent than temporary. When it was announced that Sophia Matson had joined Days of Our Lives for a role debuting in early 2027, it immediately raised questions about her future on General Hospital. If Sophia signed a long-term contract over at DOOL, GH may eventually have no choice but to move forward with another actress in the role of Sasha. Sasha's return could instantly reignite several messy emotional conflicts across Port Charles. That's what makes this possibility interesting to me. Sasha still has multiple storylines waiting for her, and a return could immediately shake up several relationships. I could absolutely see Sasha returning with Michael Corinthos' daughter, Daisy Gilmore, and instantly disrupting the fragile dynamics already in place. That alone creates tension with multiple people in Michael's orbit and could easily pull him into another emotional conflict. But the bigger spark might be Willow. Since Willow Tate played a role in pushing Sasha out of town, there's a strong revenge angle sitting there waiting to explode. If Sasha came back knowing the full truth about everything that happened, I think the show could turn her and Willow into genuine rivals instead of uneasy former allies. And honestly, that feels like classic soap material. Two women with deep emotional wounds, competing agendas, shared history, and unresolved resentment. That's the kind of long-running conflict soaps thrive on. To me, Sasha currently has more untapped story potential than Christina does. That doesn't mean Christina is unimportant, but from a storytelling perspective, Sasha's return could affect multiple core families and relationships almost immediately. So I really wouldn't be surprised if GH starts looking for a new Sasha sooner rather than later. Whether that happens quietly behind the scenes or becomes a major casting announcement, it definitely feels like the show is entering another transition phase. And soap fans know those periods usually come with surprises. On Tuesday's General Hospital, I think the biggest theme is desperation disguised as strategy. Almost everyone seems to be making risky choices while convincing themselves it's the only option left. At the center of it all, General Hospital gives Alexis Davis and Ava Jerome an unexpected partnership that could become far more dangerous than either woman realizes. After Ava identified Delilah Wilson's tattoo as the work of the famous Japanese artist Kyoko, Alexis appears ready to act immediately. To me, this storyline feels less like a simple investigation and more like the beginning of a deeper mystery tied to Delilah's past. Alexis inviting Ava to New York makes sense because Ava operates naturally in the art world, and Alexis clearly needs someone who can recognize the hidden connections she might otherwise miss. I was wondering if the Manhattan Gallery visit could uncover something much larger than Delilah's identity. The brochures in Delilah's luggage almost feel too intentional to ignore, like breadcrumbs leading Alexis toward a secret someone worked very hard to bury. And honestly, pairing Alexis and Ava together creates a fascinating energy because neither woman fully trusts the other, yet both are smart enough to know they need each other. Meanwhile, Lucas Jones finally opens up to Carly Spencer, and this may end up being one of the more emotional moments of the episode. Lucas admitting that Marco Reyes proved himself before dying carries enormous guilt underneath it. I think Lucas is struggling with the realization that Marco died trying to help him. The tragedy surrounding Britt Westbourne's Huntington's medication only keeps getting darker. Marco successfully obtained the vials, Lucas passed them to Britt, and then Ross Cullum destroyed everything before Marco was murdered. The whole situation now feels like a chain reaction of impossible choices where everyone thought they were saving someone, but instead more lives were ruined. What really stands out to me is how Sidwell is reacting. His obsession with finding Marco's killer feels personal, intense, and potentially dangerous. The show seems to be teasing multiple possibilities about who Sidwell is speaking to and what his true intentions are. Maybe he's threatening someone, maybe he's grieving, or maybe he's preparing retaliation against anyone he believes failed him. I think the most intriguing possibility is that Sidwell already suspects more than people realize. Soap operas' love hiding power moves behind emotional speeches, and Sidwell's "I'll do whatever it takes" line sounds exactly like the kind of warning that comes before a major escalation. At Pizzuolo's, Sonny Corinthos and Laura Collins continue trying to build a case against Sidwell, but the situation is becoming increasingly complicated. Sonny's plan to convince Pascal to turn on Sidwell sounds good in theory, but I'm not fully convinced they actually have enough leverage yet. Britt's information about Sidwell ordering Dalton's murder could change everything. But there's one enormous problem. Britt herself is now on the run with Tyler Anderson, who is really Rocco Falconry. That creates a nightmare scenario legally and emotionally. Even if Sonny and Laura can expose Sidwell, how do they protect Britt? And how do they explain Rocco's involvement without creating even more fallout for Dante and Lulu? To me, Sonny seems to be operating in survival mode again, building plans faster than events can collapse around him. That's classic Sonny Corinthos behavior. He's always strongest when cornered, but the danger is that every solution usually creates three new problems. Then there's Lulu Spencer, whose guilt appears to completely consume her. Her line about everything being entirely my fault feels heartbreaking because Lulu tends to blame herself whenever chaos impacts the people she loves. I think Dante Falconry is about to walk directly into emotional devastation. After finding Elizabeth Baldwin unconscious and realizing Britt escaped, Dante is likely piecing together the full disaster in real time. And the image of the smashed phones left behind almost feels symbolic. Communication shattered, trust broken, and everyone now chasing pieces of a story they don't fully understand yet. What makes Tuesday's episode especially compelling is that nearly every character believes they are protecting someone. Alexis wants answers, Lucas wanted to help Britt, Sonny wants justice, Lulu wants to save her son. But in true soap opera fashion, good intentions keep leading everyone deeper into danger. And honestly, that's when General Hospital tends to be at its best.